Hello folks, so in this session we're just going to cover a quick overview of Campaign Manager, which is our outbound progressive dialer application, how it works with Mitel Phone Manager, and how it's possible to see the performance of the team really simply through the user interface. So the first thing to think about is how it looks for a user. Notice this Campaign Manager button here. Also take note that in fact the Pro license is required for this button to be visible for a user, but when they click it, the user will get this this form here. I'll just resize it, and this form is designed, if you like, as a one-stop shop for the user to be able to manage the dialer campaigns. On the left-hand side here, we have information. In this case, today's performance so far. I can see that this user has made 11 calls. 5 of those calls resulted in a conversation with a decision maker contact, and this person is making calls to make appointments for sales, and they've made 2 appointments out of the 5 decision maker conversations. Whilst the Campaign Manager is in progress, the details that have been imported into the data, into the campaign, will be visible here, and the user can click the History tab here to see previous calls made to this number, or any notes that have been entered via this Notes utility, if that happened. On the right-hand side of the pane, we have actions. So this is the deliberate buttons that the user is pressing to control the dialer. If they click the login button, by definition that will log them into the dialer and the dialer will start working. You just notice this counter here. When they're in wrap up after a call, the counter will wind down to the point where it dials the next number, which is a useful feedback for the user to see. If at any time they want to pause the dialer, they can click the pause button here. And if they've got a long wrap up but they finish early, they can terminate that wrap up early and get on with dialing the next number. Once they're connected to a call, they can hold the call or consult to transfer it, or they can just hang up the call. And what's really useful is that each campaign can have its own set of dispositions, and those dispositions will dynamically be made visible here, and these buttons that appear will control the pacing of the dialer and give feedback to the dialer about the nature of the outcome of the calls. This whole center section here, in this example, we're going to screen pop a Microsoft Dynamics CRM contact record so that the user can transact business. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is the user interface for the dialer itself. This is how you would manage the dialer. This is, if I'm a supervisor, I want to see the performance of my team, but I also want to create and manage campaigns. So again, what's great about the user interface is it's been designed specifically for the SMB market. We've distilled the key performance indicators into 4 key stats. The first is, how many outbound calls did we make today? So that's an obvious stat that most people in the dialing world would want to know. The next one is, what is the connect rate? How many of these calls actually resulted in an answered call, and what percentage is that? This will give us good feedback as to the quality of the data, and you will notice that the stats are very different for business to consumer campaigns versus business to business campaigns. Business to business campaigns will be very high. Businesses make it their business to answer the phone, so greater than 95% is not uncommon. But it's also the opposite in business to consumer. It's not uncommon for only 20% of the calls you make to result in even an answered call, let alone a conversation with a decision maker contact. So this next stat takes the answered calls and gives you the quantity of calls that resulted in a conversation with a decision maker, and it gives you the percentage. And again, in business-to-business campaigns, this is a measure of the agent's skill level. How well do they do at getting through the gatekeeper to a decision maker in a business? you then take the last stat, which is, in this case, sale. This is effectively the conversion stats. Of the 5 decision maker conversations that took place, 2 of them resulted in a sale, which constitutes a 40% conversion rate. You can then also click this button here on a given campaign and drill into the specific stats of all of the different types of dispositions that were entered, and the resulting 4 stats are also presented here. It will also give you a list of the agents who are currently logged into this campaign and who they're currently talking to and how well they've done as an individual. So it's very easy for the supervisor to load data through this data management utility here, get it into a list of numbers to dial, name the list, and then by drilling into the campaign settings, assigning which members of the team should be working the Southeast data compared to those team members who should be working one of the other bits of data. You do that by using this user tab here and just moving people into the assigned list. So it's very easy to configure for SMB customers. So I'm just going to log in and demonstrate the dialer working. You see the wrap-up countdown, and when I'm free it will dial the first number and it will screen pop the contact record in the middle here. Now that's an answered call. And notice now here's the dispositions that have been assigned to this campaign. So in this case, maybe I just got through to an answer machine. I click the answer machine button. That's only been given 10 seconds of wrap up, but I can choose to terminate wrap up if I wish, and it will now dial the next number. So again, I've got a connected call, and in this case, I'm going to have a conversation with the decision maker contact, but maybe I'll lose the sale, which is understandable if I'm not very good at sales, that is. Okay, so I click the lost sale button. Okay, I'm still connected on the call. When I reach the point where I wrap up the conversation, I can just click clear call, which hangs up the outbound call, and I'll get a couple of seconds of wrap up and it dials the next number for me. And just notice the stats incrementing as I go along. Okay, so if I wanted to, I could hit the history button. I can see here that on the 25th of March, there was a call made previously to this customer, and it was an answer machine, and there are no notes that have been entered against it historically. I could add notes, speak to the boss first. In this case, I'm just making this up as I go along. If I add the note, it time and date stamps it with my name, and that note is now tagged to that call should we call them back in the future. And if we choose to agree that we're going to call somebody back, I can just use this calendar method here just to call someone back at, let's say, 3 o'clock on the 15th. And now I can hang up the call. The dialer will take care of that. At 3 o'clock on the 15th, that call will come back into the pool and will make the call. You can also configure it to dial for the agent who made the call in the first place if you wish. It's now going to make another call. In this case, I'm going to have a conversation with the decision maker, and I'm going to click sale. That's a successful outcome, and I'm wanting to see this my increase number here from 2 to 3 when I hang up the call and it makes the next call. So I get to the point where I think I'll just pause the dialer. I'll choose to log out in this case. I'm going to disposition the call as an answer machine, and it should just log me out of the dialer. I can minimize that and let you have a look at how those stats fed back into the supervisor centrally. And since this is just a browser, anybody with supervisor login rights can just browse to this user interface and get visibility of the performance of the team. And that's it. More videos to come in due course.